Big Buck Registry's Big Buck Podcast, episode number 51. Drury Outdoors with special guest Matt Drury. Big Buck Registry is a virtual museum of hunting stories. We preserve a piece of Americana by interviewing and recording hunters about their hunts and experiences from across the country. And who knows, maybe we'll learn a thing or two along the way that'll help us take our hunt to the next level.
Hey, this is Doug Castrava from the Horny Buck Seed Company, and you're listening to my favorite podcast on iTunes, the Big Buck Registry's Big Buck Podcast.
Welcome to the show, everybody. This is your host, Jay Scott, and it is a pleasure to have you back here listening with us and tuning into the Big Buck Registry's Big Buck Podcast. Very special guest on the show today, and looking forward to getting to that content. But first, I just want to run down a couple things. Dusty is on assignment right now. He's trying to track down some future guests, and I wanted to let you know about the Horny Buck Seed giveaway that we're still doing. If you go to www.bigbuckregistry.com/Horny Buck Seed, that is HORNY, Buck, BUCK, Seed, SEED. You will see a registration page, and you can enter to win a t-shirt and a half-acre worth of seed. So if you're interested, the contest ends on June 30th. We'll draw a random winner from the people who have entered into the contest. So good luck. A couple other things. If you would like to call the show for feedback, call 724-613-2825. You can also text in a buck picture there. If you would like to submit a picture to the Big Buck Registry, we have a new site or a new place to do that. And that is www.bigbuckregistry.com/mybuck, MYBUCK. bigbuckregistry.com/mybuck. And you'll have all the instructions right there. But basically what we're looking for is a picture of you and the buck and the state of harvest and your name. And if you could do that, you have a very good chance of getting on our wall of fame. One new thing that has happened this week, we have launched an Android app to listen to the Big Buck Registry, and you can go to bigbuckregistry.com/Android if you have like a Google phone or an Android phone of any sort. If you would like to follow us and know what's happening, where we're going, what we're doing, you can register at the Hunt Mail, and that is www.bigbuckregistry.com/huntmail. Well, I wanted to tell you a story about a antler that was recovered due to the hands of a few people that started, I believe, with Ed Waite. Ed Waite from Buckmasters, the master scorer. He actually sent in to my email a story about a shed that he had scored and actually had been stolen from a place in Ohio. So we reposted it on the Big Buck Registry, and a few weeks later the shed was returned, and it was due to the hands of social media. And we're glad to help out and recover, which is kind of weird, but we're here in New Hampshire, and we're helping a shed to be recovered that was stolen in Ohio. So just a great story, and just the people that were involved: Ed Waite, Gary Reisman, Mike Handley, the Big Buck Registry, that's us, Buckmasters, and TrophyPursuit.com. A couple of other pieces of business. We have launched the Big Buck Registry store. So if you would like to go buy or check out some of the things that we recommend online, you can go to the bigbuckregistry.com. Technically, it's bigbuckregistry.com/store, STORE. And you can see all the things we're recommending there and products that have been featured by some of the guests we've had on the show, and just some recommendations for Father's Day and things like that. So if you're interested in seeing what we're interested in, check out bigbuckregistry.com/store. A couple ways you can listen to the show, and these are our two favorites. I actually like Stitcher just a little bit better, but it's www.bigbuckregistry.com/Stitcher, STITCHER. You can have a downloadable app for just about any phone, iPhone, Android, whatever you want, and you'll be able to listen to the show by going to www.bigbuckregistry.com/Stitcher. And there's always iTunes, which is bigbuckregistry.com/iTunes. All right, so now on with the show. I don't know if you've ever heard of the family named Drury. I'd be surprised if you didn't. The Drurys have been around for a long time, and they're very well known, arguably the most well-known hunting family in America today. It wasn't always that they were on the top. They have worked hard to get there. They have done calculated risks. They didn't start out by wanting to become famous or world famous hunters on television. They just wanted to pay some bills so they could hunt in different areas. And today they're on the top of their game. Well, we got to speak with Matt Drury, and Matt is Terry's son. So you know Terry and Mark from the Drury families. Well, we're going to speak with Matt, and Matt is actually one of the social media managers and part of the pro staff that is in charge of all that stuff you get to see on TV and on YouTube and Facebook. And we're going to get to learn a little bit about how all that comes together and how they got there in the first place. So let's tune in. Matt, welcome to the Big Buck Registry's Big Buck Podcast.
How's it going today?
It's going good, man. It's going good. What's happening with you right now?
Oh man, we're pretty busy right now. Actually, we're busy all the time, but right now we're working on our new TV shows that'll start airing in July, and we actually just finished up a couple things. We've just released our new DVDs for 2014, as well as launched a new website that has a pretty cool new platform where you can get everything digitally. We're calling it Drury On Demand. So we got all kinds of stuff cooking right now.
All right, we need to talk about each one of those things individually a little bit more, because I need some details on that so that our listeners can understand how to execute all that kind of good stuff and tap into your whole system.
Absolutely.
Now, Matt, tell us who you are as part of the Drury family.
Yeah, so Drury Outdoors was started by Mark and Terry Drury, who are brothers, about 25 years ago. This is actually our 25th anniversary. They probably started at 26 years ago, but the 25th anniversary from when we launched our first ever VHS title is this year. So I'm Terry's son, and I've been here with the company for 10 years since I graduated college, and just been around for all the ups and downs since the beginning.
Nice. Now, you mentioned VHS. That's like ancient stuff, right? I mean, that
yeah,
goes.
There's going to be some younger guys listening to a podcast that aren't going to know what a VHS is.
I know, much less a Betamax, right?
Way back.
Or what did they call those discs that became DVDs? What are they called?
I forget what they. I know exactly what you're talking about. I can't think of it.
But they were like the size of a large dinner plate. Remember that?
Yeah, exactly right. They were bigger than a record.
Right. Going way back. So you're part of the family, and you're kind of running some of the media side of things for the Drury family. But you're also shooting big deer too, right? I mean, they'd let you go out and hunt on occasion.
Yeah, occasionally I get out there. I mean, my main focus is I run the day-to-day operations for our company, and that encompasses anything from our studio here and production, which is actually my background and degree is in mass media and production. And all the way to, like you said, the digital media, the marketing, all of our contracts with our sponsors. So I kind of handle really just about everything and let Mark and Terry do what they're best at, which is get out there and hunt.
Right. Gotcha. So you're the man behind the scenes for all things Drury.
I'm the one that's held accountable.
Oh, really? All right. So it's your neck on the line when things go
usually
south.
But
all
yeah,
right.
I get out a little bit, when I try to, I got to try to find the time to do it. But yes, I do get out a little bit more here in the last few years, and actually this past deer season killed my biggest deer to date.
Very cool. Maybe we can walk through that hunt in a little bit, step by step, so we can learn a few things about the way the Drurys do it.
I don't know about that, but I can sure tell you a story.
That's what we like. We'd like a good deer story better than anybody. So tell us about your dad and uncle. How did they start this whole thing?
Well, it's a funny thing because Mark is 10 years younger than my father. So he actually he was working for my dad's construction company. Dad he has a degree in engineering, civil engineering from the University of Missouri-Rolla. And he owns to this day still a construction company. and Mark was working for his construction company at the time, and he was doing the competitive turkey calling circuit and doing really well at it. And
no kidding. Right.
he came to Dad and he said, "Hey, there's some videos out there they're pretty good." And at that time there wasn't a lot. You're talking about the mid to late 80s. And there was a guy by the name of Denny Golvis that was putting out videos that taught you how to call a turkey in, or the turkeys would come in and you would hear the sounds and all this, different sounds that a turkey would make, or the vocalizations. Well, Mark decided that it'd be a good idea to not only call the turkeys in, but kill the turkeys. And do it all on video. So he came to Dad and he said, "Hey, I think we can do this, but he needed he didn't have the cash flow at the time." So they went in 50-50 and bought a camera, a Super VHS camera, and they hunted. Their first few hunts were in the Ozarks, I believe, and took 2 years to get enough turkey hunts to put out one full-length VHS title, and they called it King of the Spring. So that came out in 1989.
Interesting. So it
originated. They just really wanted to pay for some hunts too. I mean, they never thought that they would make a big living out of this. It was more than anything is to get to go on these trips and pay for the hunts by selling some of the VHS back in that day. And at the time, the interesting part about this was at the time the rental shelves. That was a big part of how you got your message out there, was you would sell to a rental store and then they would rent it over and over. So you would you sold a title, one VHS title would sell for $50.
Wow.
Pretty interesting, yeah.
That is interesting.
The rental store would rent it over and over and over. So that's kind of how they got their start.
Aha. I did not know that about that industry. That's fascinating. Yeah. The Drurys are arguably one of the most famous hunting families in America today, and maybe all time. And it, by the sounds of it, when you first started out, or when they first started out, that wasn't necessarily the goal. The goal was just to cover some of the expenses of going hunting in different states and travel expenses, from the sounds of it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, hindsight's 20/20. You never know what you're getting into, I guess. But At the time, it was just Mark. He was really doing well on the turkey calling circuit, and he thought, being in that industry, he was starting to meet some people. He met Toxie Hayes, and the founder of Mossy Oak. And, at that point, he started actually repping Mossy Oak's line. And Mark was one of the top reps for Mossy Oak in the Midwest for several years. He did it for quite a long time there into the early 90s. And, as things started kind of progressing, interesting enough, they decided, hey, turkey hunting's great. What are there? 2-3 million turkey hunters out there, but deer hunting, that's where it's at. Hey, there's 12 million plus deer hunters. So, of course, there's going to be more opportunity to sell these VHS titles. So, I think it was around 1993 they unveiled their first ever deer title. And at the time, Monster Bucks, which now Realtree's kind of made famous, but at the time we were the first to come out with a Monster Buck series. And the funny part about that is, the Monster Bucks back then, to make the cover, which is always the big deal, to make the cover buck, you could have killed a 110-inch monster, and that would have been your cover buck. So it was interesting, to see the not only the company evolve, but to see how hunting has evolved, and management, and the caliber of deer that people really take for granted what they see on TV. You could turn on 2 or 3 channels now and see 140, 50-inch deer and not think anything of it. But I think your average guy out there that's hunting, small tracts of land, the reality is that 120 to 140-inch deer, that's a mega giant for a lot of people, myself included. And so it took them a while to get to that point where they were killing those type of animals, that quality of animals. So it's interesting to see how things have evolved.
Not only do you have to put yourself in those types of opportunities, but learn how to do it. But it's almost like you have to learn what not to kill.
Oh, you most certainly have to. There's a lot to learn. I mean, they've made literally every mistake in the book, and they'll be the first to tell you that. And I think that's kind of the beauty of what we do at Drury Outdoors. It's not about look at me, look at me, look at me. It's about, hey, look at the deer, look at the deer. We tell stories about the deer we're chasing. You know, Mark and Terry, the biggest thing they have is information that they've learned from literally being out in a tree for, 40, 50 plus years combined, so that's what we try to impart is that knowledge. And it's not from, a position where we're looking down on people. It's just because we've literally made every mistake you can and still make them.
Right.
And so we try to, in our DVDs and our TV shows, we try to impart some of that knowledge so that, the guy out there watching can take some of it and try to put it to good use.
Right. Do you think it ever gets old for those guys?
Well, that's kind of a loaded question. I think it's tough because they love hunting. They absolutely love hunting, and Mark specifically. I mean, that guy. As a side note, I just got off the phone with him here. He started hunting March 31st, I think, in Texas for turkeys, and he literally just got back from his last hunt. I mean, he hunted since March 31st. I forget 5, 6 states. I mean, he's seen more turkeys die between him filming them or him killing them. He loves guiding people. He loves turkey hunting. I said to him the other day, I said, haven't you got enough of it yet this year? He said, no, I just love turkey hunting. So that's a guy who the passion, and I think it comes out on video, the passion that he has for the sport of hunting, it's like something I've never seen.
Right.
Now, Dad, being 10 years older than him, I think he's to the point where he doesn't have the desire to travel anywhere. He likes to stay there on his farm for the most part in North Missouri, and he's worked really hard to work his way up to have the farm that he does, and he's got it manicured and he manages it a certain way. I think hunting for him, the industry has jaded him a little bit because we have a lot of obligations, and that's just part of it. He would never complain about it, but I think what he would love to do is literally just sit on his farm and never leave, never come off his property.
Right.
And that's because he loves the sport. But with it, and the path we've chose, there's obviously some obligations that come with it.
Yeah, I would think that as much as I love hunting, turkey, deer, ducks, geese, all of that, if I had to travel all the time, I would be elated for a very long time. But then I would think I would want to slow down for a little bit and have a farm where I could just manage my stuff and didn't have to go somewhere else. So I can appreciate that. I mean, that's kind of like how I envision that. I could be completely wrong. I don't know.
25 years is a long time, and it's not like in 1989 or 88 when they started is the first time they ever hunted. I mean, heck, Dad was in his early 30s. That was that was after they had hunted their whole life. So that's a lot of hunting, and in 25 years, in the last. I remember in grade school and high school growing up, I just never saw Dad from November. At the time they'd start hunting in late October, early November, and hunt through December. But anymore, they hunt from September. As soon as the season opens, in Missouri, it opens usually a September 15th area. They'll hunt in Missouri from September 15th, and then, obviously Illinois and Iowa open up October 1st. So, then it opens them up to hunt a couple more states. So they literally hunt from September into, January until we go to the trade shows, and then we spend a couple of weeks, going to the trade shows.
Mm-hmm.
And, if they can, they try to get back to the farm and squeak in one more hunt before the season closes. But that's every single day. I mean, there's been days where I think last year Dad hunted 57 days before he killed his first buck. And granted, they are managing at a certain level, and so there's certain expectations. So they passed, he's passed a lot of good deer up to that point.
Sure.
I challenge anybody to do something for 57 days straight and not get a little jaded, by day 57. So after 25 years of doing that. So
yeah, I mean, because you're looking for that right animal. Yeah, 57 days of doing it day after day and not actually doing the final step.
Yeah.
That's going to be a little mentally challenging.
Yeah, we call it Groundhog Day. It's the poor camera guy is who I always feel bad for. It's a grind, man. But that's the thing. It's to do it at the level that they do it and the degree they do it with consistency year in and year out. That's what it takes. And it's as much as they love hunting, it is a job. And at the end of the day, we have obligations, and they have to get the job done. So it's it can make for interesting seasons where they can start getting crabby if things start going wrong. Let me tell you.
I bet. Have they ever yelled at you?
Oh, more times. Not as much anymore, but boy, when I was when I first started, there's a few knockdown dragouts. My grandpa always said, in the Drury family, everybody's a boss. So, if you can imagine, that means everybody's got an opinion, and it's the right opinion.
Right.
That makes it tough at
right.
times, but
too many chiefs almost. Yeah.
It's a good dynamic. It really is.
Right. You know what I loved about Mark, and I've always loved this. He was the only guy that wore glasses hunting, and that I've always worn glasses since like 8th grade in school. So I always related to him. It's like, that guy's cool because he's wearing glasses and he's hunting too.
Yeah.
So just kind of that's kind of silly, but
yeah, Mark and Dad both for the longest time wore glasses, and then I'd say about probably 5, 6, probably longer than that, 6, 7 years ago, Dad got LASIK surgery.
Yep.
And the question I get all the time here, through via our website, DruryOutdoors.com, you can leave a comment, and I read all the comments. And everybody always asks, how do they prevent their glasses from fogging up?
There you go. That's a great question.
I've asked Mark 1,000 times, and he said, you know what? When the heat of the moment happens, he said it's just nearly impossible. It's one of those things where I think, interestingly enough, Jim Thome, who's a Hall of Fame caliber baseball player, he's hit 612 home runs.
Yeah, fantastic
Good
baseball
buddy
player.
Of ours.
Yep.
He hunts on our shows and our DVDs. He always says, because we're big baseball fanatics, St. Louis Cardinal guys. And he always tells us you got to slow the game down, and that's what he does in his end. And he relates that moment of when the deer comes in and you got to make that shot, especially archery because they're in so close. You got to kind of slow things down, and you got to think of what jobs you have to do, what yardage the deer is at, what angle is he at, quartering away, broadside. You got to have the right shot angle, and so you start thinking of those things, and you start slowing down your breathing a little bit. And I think that's helped many people. Mark's one of those guys where he's got ice in his veins, man. He's had some absolute giants come in on him, and he's sealed the deal. And after that shot goes off, I think all the adrenaline starts pumping, but he sure knows how to slow the game down, as Jim would say.
That's a very good point. And just in this past season, every season it always happens. I'm working a turkey. The turkey's coming in, and everything's fine until I do a mouth call, especially when the turkey's coming in. Mm-hmm. And my whole set of glasses fogs up completely. Then I have to focus on pointing my mouth or breath downward to let the normal breeze just kind of take away the fog.
Yeah.
And you're right. You have to slow it down. Slow motion, think it through. There's plenty of time.
Yeah.
But, boy, you sure can get caught in the moment and accelerate everything, and it will screw it up. There's no question.
That's why people love hunting, though. It's a double-edged sword. That excitement's why you do it. And
yes.
That's why you keep coming back no matter how old you are. That excitement, once that fades, boy, it's right. Probably time to pick up another hobby.
Yeah, and it's that excitement that brings you back, but it's the excitement and the ability to control that excitement that is the challenge.
Exactly.
Yep, that's so true. Let's talk about your team that you've got on your site here. I don't think we have time to talk about everybody because you have a slew of people on your team.
We do. That's kind of been our, I guess, recipe for success over 25 years is Mark and Terry. We identified a long time ago that Mark and Terry, they can't account for enough hunts to make one full TV show, much less we have 4 TV shows plus 3 DVDs. It's all original content. So a long time ago they identified, hey, let's have a Drury Outdoors team, some individuals that have the same passion. They're located in all kinds of different areas: Ohio, Pennsylvania, Kansas, Minnesota, all over the state, Texas. So it allows us to do a couple things. Not only does it allow us to get enough content that we need, we call it the economics of death. We got to have X amount of deer kills to make all that content, or else nobody's going to watch. At the end of the day, you got to have a kill on all those episodes, and we try to too. So to make that happen, we got a list of some of the best killers out there. And the other thing it does is kind of makes them all little hometown heroes. And when we team up with some of these great partners of ours, like Moss Yoke or PSE or Under Armour, those pro staff of ours, they're out there at their boat, local archery shops and ranges and all that good stuff. And, they're explaining to people or letting people in on some of the stuff that we get to do and explaining how they like the product and what it does for them. And, I think a big misconception is, TV shows out there, and I'm sure some are, but we're not that way. But we partner up with people when we believe in their products. And if we find out, we partner with somebody and the vibe's good, and then the product isn't good, we don't stay partners with them. It's one of those things where we believe in the products we promote, and we believe that they do give us an edge and help us. So it allows us to those team members kind of can help spread that message for us as well. And so it's a pretty dynamic thing. And a lot of those teams have gone on to have successful careers of their own in the TV industry and start producing their own shows.
Gotcha. Now, why the need for so many?
Well, it kind of goes back to that economics of death. I mean, you've 4 TV shows, and that's an internal term that we use, just because, we identified back in the day we needed 96 deer kills a year to make enough content to get 4 TV shows, 3 DVDs, and fulfill our obligations to our partners. And so to do that, Mark and Terry aren't going to hunt 50 states. They're going to hunt 3 or 4 states. And depending on the state, they might get 1 tag, 2 tags, or 3, and so to get 96 kills, you obviously have to have a cast of guys that can help, get enough kills to get that good content that people really expect out of Drury Outdoors.
Right.
I don't think that if they turned on the TV and you watched a 30-minute episode and you saw one kind of okay kill at the very end, that's not what people expect out of Drury Outdoors. They expect information, they expect entertainment, and we identified that there's a certain number of deer kills we need to be able to do that. Right.
And it looks like you've got somewhere between 30 and 40 members.
Yeah. It's down right now. We used to have probably about 50 or 60, and in the last 3 or 4 years we've kind of trimmed back and took a hard look at who's on and who's not.
Gotcha. So there's Mark, Terry, Matt, that's you, and Taylor. Who's Taylor?
Taylor is Mark's daughter, and she's an only child, and she's actually just finished her freshman year at Mizzou. She's in college, and she's got quite the following, and because she's grown up, literally 18 years growing up on video, and she is a flat killer, man. Mark puts her in the spots, but say what you will, she can always make the shot, and she's got some of that ice in her veins that Mark's got flowing through his.
That's interesting. Very cool.
It's an interesting dynamic. I think women in hunting, women and children in general, our numbers are growing. Well, guess why they're growing? It's women and children being introduced to the sport. So people like Tiffany Lukoski and Eva Shockey and Taylor, and they help to perpetuate that girls can do it. Girls can have fun. Women, can get involved, wives, girlfriends, and it's a good thing. It's a good thing. Hunting isn't the same as it used to be 25 years ago. It's not just for men. It's a full family sport, and I think to keep our sport going, it has to be, and that's one thing we're proud of, and Taylor does a good job of helping to promote the sport. Yeah,
that's smart. And definitely, we spoke with Lee and Tiffany, and Tiffany was great. She basically was on the interview for the most of the whole show while Lee was out doing some of the farm work, and he came in late and joined us later.
Sure. Tiffany, here's a fun fact for you. I actually edited Tiffany's first 2 ever hunts when I was interning for Drury Outdoors way back in the early 2000s, late 90s, somewhere in there.
No kidding.
Yeah. They were at the time hunting with the Kiskies, who used to be a Drury Outdoor team member. They started their own company, and they had a video called Whitetails Taking It to the Extreme. and we actually produced and edited that video for them and distributed it for them at the time. And I was interning for the company while I was in college, and edited her first ever hunts.
No kidding. So there's a big connection between in the industry of the people you've worked with and the Lakoskis. That's very interesting.
Oh yeah, it's a very, very small industry, and there's a lot of connections like that. I mean, a lot of people don't realize Michael Waddell was, Bill Jordan's camera guy. He was in the turkey calling circuit. A lot of guys that are successful now, they paid their dues and worked their way up the ladder, so to speak.
Right, and I think that's something that gets overlooked. Like you see, there are 8 million new outdoor groups being formed on Facebook every single day. Right. But you don't realize that in order to get to the top, there are dues that get paid along the way, and you form your alliances and your loyalties and work with other people. And eventually you make it higher up into the ranks.
It takes a long time, though. I think, a lot of people always see Mark and Terry, and they got these great farms, and they just assume that they always had them. But no, I mean, when they started hunting back in Bloomsdale, Missouri, which is where we're all from, town of 400 people, they hunted at a place, a deer club called the 40 Acre Club. You had to have 40 acres to get into it. And, and when they first started the company, they were knocking on doors, in Illinois and Iowa and hunting, just by knocking on doors and getting leases. And, they started leasing ground and started losing leases a lot, and that's when they decided to buy their first ever piece of property over in Pike County, Illinois. And, it was a small tract, and it started small, and over time things have evolved, and they've sold this piece and bought another, and maybe sold that one and bought a little bigger one. It didn't just happen, and that's one of the things.
Right.
Mark and Terry are two of the hardest working people I have ever met, and they just don't stop. I mean, they don't, even to this day. I mean, Mark, he works with Mad Calls, a call company he started in the 90s and sold. He still works with them, and Terry still has a construction company. He still has been jobs, every time he's back in the office. So it's they're hardworking guys. That's
intense. Yeah, I mean that's still working a regular job and still doing this job, which is a full-time job in itself. That's a lot. That's a real lot.
It's they're just, I think you'll find when most successful people like that, they're driven guys, and they just don't stop. Their minds, it's when we go on a family vacation, there isn't much vacation being had because they're talking business. It's all about what's next, what's new.
Interesting. Now, between Matt, Terry, yourself, and Taylor, who's the best deer hunter out of the four of you?
Mark. It's hands down. Mark's unbelievable. He takes it to a whole new level. They call him the Mad Scientist. His initials are Mark Allen Drury, Mad, and that's where his call company started out of. And they call him the Mad Scientist because he will think of things to get on a deer. I mean, it's constant innovation, constant paying attention to what Mother Nature's doing, what his Reconyx cameras are doing. I've never met anybody that's more tuned into a deer herd than he is.
Sounds like one of those engineer detail kind of guys.
He is. He definitely is. You'd have to know him to know the level that he'll think, the type of things that he'll think of to get on a deer. All legal, all within the letter of the law. But I'm talking like, something that he started last year, which he's not the one that created this by any means. He heard somebody told him about it, and he took it to a whole new level. But he calls it the tree koi, and basically he cut down a smaller tree. He dug a hole in his fields, kind of by his box blinds or tree stands, and he put the tree in the hole, and he created scrape sites for the deer to come to that weren't, they were hitting the scrape sites on the edge of the field, but they weren't coming into, stand range, so archery, range. So he started moving. He did that in 3 or 4 fields, and, he killed several deer over them. It's just stuff like that, your average guy just doesn't think of or want to put the time in to do.
All right, hold on a second. Let's go back to that one second. I want to get this straight. So you cut down a tree, you dig a hole in a field, you put the tree in it, you fill it in, then you make mock scrapes around the tree?
Yeah, you'll leave yourself a branch there, and he even goes so far as he'll position it in the hole in the licking branch or whatever, scrape branch. He'll position it so that the deer gives him the right broadside or quartering away angle to take that shot from his tree stand.
Wow. And do you put a tree stand tree there too, or just
no? He'll Mark and Terry anymore, they hunt out of a lot of box blinds, big game freestyle blinds,
yep.
or man-made ones that they've kind of created over the past 10 years or so, and he'll put the tree in the right spot to his either a blind or tree stand. So he puts the tree where he needs it instead of it being anywhere along the field edge.
Interesting. So it's almost like an attractant, just the tree itself.
It absolutely
is a natural attractant.
That's exactly right. We actually, Mad brand products, they're coming out with a tree koi. They're calling it tree koi, like decoy. Tree koi. They're coming out with it this year. That product, and it's
fascinating.
They, came out with it. It's like a rubberized tree base, and it's got holes strategically kind of placed in there, and you just got to cut some natural limbs from tree close and stick them in those appropriate holes, and it's just a lot easier than having to cut down a tree, dig a hole everywhere you go. It's got a base to it, but yeah, it's pretty interesting. He's always coming up with something.
What? That's brilliant. Lee Lakowski's the same way. Very engineer-like detail.
That way. Yeah.
Very interesting.
He's got that engineering background as well.
He does. Yeah.
Chemical engineering.
Chemical engineering. Exactly. So let's talk about you, Matt, a little bit. You have on your Facebook page at DruryOutdoors.com, you've got a picture of you with a pretty impressive buck. Looks like you took it with a bow and arrow. Can we walk through that hunt from preparation to alarm cock?
I'm trying to think of which hunt you're talking about. On our Drury Outdoors Facebook page.
Under the team site.
Oh, on our website itself?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, the biggest buck I've ever killed was actually this, and I will rightfully say I'm still, learning a ton, still learning a lot from Mark and Terry. I haven't killed a ton of deer. I'm by no means an expert, or, I'm learning big time every day still. So, the majority of the deer that I killed are kind of in that 120 to 130 range, and, been lucky to kill several deer with my bow, but it just so happens I had a tough year with my bow. I probably hunted more this year than ever before, and just had a tough season seeing mature deer this year, and got down to the late season, and I was hunting over in Illinois in Fulton County, and had a gun tag, and it was the second season, and it was the last day of the hunt. A front had moved in, and it snowed a little bit that day, and it got the deer up on their feet. So we got in early, and we were hunting a box blind because of the camera equipment. It was actually snowing when we were on our way in, so to protect all the equipment that we bring in, we try to get out of the elements if it's possible, and sitting there, and we're hunting a 60-acre piece of ground that Dad owns in Fulton County, and we got two kind of box blinds set up on it. There's two different elevations, a high part of the farm and a low part. And Dad's down in the low part on some cut corn, and I'm up on a bean field that's long been picked over by the deer.
Right.
Not much of anything left on it. I think there was some biologic maximum on that field as well. And the deer, they start moving early for us. And, it's 60 acres. I can't stress that enough. It's 60 acres. And a deer pops out, and then I'll get two deer, then three deer. And I look up, and I was like, I think I see a shooter. And, this is December. I'm trying to think when I actually killed that deer. I think it was December, like the 6th or something like that. I mean, it's getting to the point where it's getting to be the end of my season. And, so when you say shooter by that point, all hands on deck because it's been a long year,
Right.
So we lose the deer for a while. He's got his head down. He's feeding at the edge of the timber, probably 200 yards away, and I'm shooting a muzzleloader. So he finally comes out. He pops his head up. He comes out, and camera guy's on him. We got a good shot angle. He's broadside. I take the shot and drop him in his tracks. Actually, with the smoke of those muzzleloaders, sometimes you can't see if they run off or drop or what. But
sure. Smoke
clears, and he's laying in the field. So he scored as an 8-pointer, as a clean 8-pointer. he scored a 161 inches. So
wow.
yeah, my biggest as an 8-pointer. That's huge. He had 25-inch main beams, and I think he had like 13-inch G2s. I mean, he was just a really, really nice deer, and my best buck to date. So
wow.
It was a good hunt for me.
Yeah, you mentioned that you identified the deer as a shooter. What is a shooter in your mind?
Well, for us, it's different for everybody. It's kind of I don't know who coined the phrase, but if the spirit moves you, and it might have been old Uncle Ted, I don't know, but if the spirit moves you, he's a shooter. Well, for us, we Mark and Dad specifically, they've been doing it so long. A shooter for on Dad's farm is typically a 4-year-old or better. We try to get into that 5-year-old range.
Mm-hmm.
For Mark, I mean, it could be a 5-6-year-old deer. His biggest competition with the white-tailed deer is that age structure, to kind of to let them grow, pass them, if you see them at 3 and 4, and hopefully one day see them again at 5, 6, 7, whatever the case may be. So a shooter, may not be a big scoring deer, but if he's got a big body, you'll know instantly that deer is a shooter.
Gotcha. Okay, so it's a feeling, but it's also identifying as a more mature deer in the 4 to 5 category.
For us.
For
yes.
you,
but,
yep.
But absolutely, for
right.
anybody out there, just whatever moves you.
Gotcha. Okay, so that's just kind of your criteria, but it's different in all parts of the country, and every hunter is different.
The other thing is we're just very fortunate to be able to hunt the Midwest, which is it's just by pure luck. That's where we were born and raised, in the Midwest. So,
right.
A lot of guys in the different parts of the country, maybe the South or the Northeast, or there's all kinds of subspecies of deer out there, and not everyone grows that type of body weight that these corn-fed Midwestern deer can get to. So it's different for everybody, but if you get that blood pumping, he's
Gotcha.
a shooter.
And what kind of bow are you shooting?
I have been the past 2 years. I've been shooting a PSE. I'm going to be switching to a DNA SP this year. I actually got it on order right now. I'm waiting to get it. But
gotcha.
So the PSE is what we shoot in general, and we've had great luck with them. They're innovators, and they've been really good to us. I've been shooting the PSE Dream Season Evo for the last 2 years, but getting ready to switch over to the DNA.
Gotcha. And how about the arrows?
Arrows, PSE actually makes an arrow called Carbon Force, and we shoot Bow Madness arrows, which Bow Madness is one of our TV shows, and PSE and Carbon Force came out with a Bow Madness arrow, and I think he shoots 100s, but Dad and I shoot 200s, so Mark shoots a real light arrow.
Okay. And how about your broadheads?
Now that we've been really, really proud to partner up with Rage for the last, it's been, I think since I've been here, 10 years, 10 years, somewhere in there. Rage is just, when we started shooting those broadheads, those expandable heads that give you a bigger cutting diameter, and right now we're shooting the Rage Extremes. I think they're like 2.3 cutting diameter. We just have had great success in our recovery. Not that you ever want to hit an animal bat. You always want to 10-ring an animal. You always want to shoot in the vitals. But, bow hunting, it can happen where, you pull or the deer ducks or, and you might make a marginal shot, and
sure.
Our recovery rate's been really, really good with those Rage in general and Rage Extremes here in the last, 2 years. I think we were shooting the prototypes 2 years ago, and they came out with them last year.
Gotcha.
So,
they're uncontrollable variables. That's part of hunting. That's why it's called hunting, right?
Absolutely right. You obviously want to make a clean kill every time, but sometimes things happen, and I think the biggest thing is, to make sure, hopefully you give that animal a quick, clean kill. But if you don't, you still want to be able to recover him and to get a good blood trail or to give the deer a couple hours if you need to expire and then kind of do a body search for him. Rage has just really done a good job for us.
Gotcha.
We're really happy to be with
So
them.
it sounds like, you always want to speak well of your sponsors, but it sounds to me like the Rage, you actually like them a tremendous amount, not just because they're sponsors, but they're pretty good products.
Yeah, I alluded to it a while ago. We strive to partner with the best of the best in all categories. I mean,
Right.
we want the best equipment, and it's not about a sponsorship amount, or it's about the quality of product. And we want to kill a deer as bad as the next guy, and to do that, you want to have the best equipment if you can. And so, through time, sure, there's been a couple sponsors that you might use them for a year and you think, oh, this isn't quite what it was cracked up to be or what we thought it would be. And usually those relationships, we get out of them and move on. And, the ones that have good quality products, those are the ones we stay with. And there's been a lot more of those than there have been of the sponsors that last a year or two.
Gotcha. Matt, what do you do for scent control?
Yeah, so just this year we actually, starting this past fall, started hunting with Under Armour, and they have that advertising marketing plan out there that says "Do you see green?" And they got this pretty cool technology that really keeps you and your clothes. It's not one of those things where you got to activate it. You could just wash it every couple hunts or leave it hang out to dry or whatever, and it's absorbing your scent or whatever. So that's what we've been using here the last fall, and it's been really working well for us. And the same practices hold true. You want to keep your clothes scent free. You want to wash them, in scent free detergent. You want to keep them out of the kitchen, out of the elements. Don't go driving around in your in your suit. All that stuff. Scent free shower. We still follow all those good things too.
Okay, so do you have a spray that you use too, or you just rely on the
Under
clothing?
Armour actually has a spray that we started using last year, and it seemed to work really good for us.
Okay, very good. What about boots? Rubber boots, leather boots, doesn't matter? What's your opinion?
With Under Armour, they got such a wide line of stuff. They actually have a whole line of boots as well, and I don't know what you would classify. The bottoms of them are rubber, but it's got, I don't know what you would classify it as. It's almost like a clothing type of material from the ankle up, but it's waterproof. And they seem to really, really do well for us this year. I didn't have any problems with any leaking or anything like that.
Yeah, I've always liked Under Armour as a product. It's
our first time really trying them out this past year, and I can't say a bad thing. I mean, I've really enjoyed it, and I think the coolest part about Under Armour is that because they're such a global, billion-dollar company, they have the technology, and they're making the technology for their other, like maybe football or baseball or some of their bigger sports, that they can then take that technology and put it into the hunting side. It's hard to argue with that ability for them to do that. I mean, they can come up with. I think they're using a technology that they got from like the stealth bomber that
right.
It allows you that if you're moving, it heats you up a little bit or keeps your heat and keeps you warm in the winter. I mean, they got all kinds of technology. It's unbelievable.
Yep.
We toured their place last year, and it was just phenomenal.
Did you go to the one in Baltimore on the?
Yeah. The place out in Baltimore.
Yeah, right on the harbor there.
Yeah, and it really, truly was very cool and eye-opening to see. They got a room, I forget what they called it. It was like their technology and innovations room or whatever, and it's one of those things that you got to have certain supervision to get in it, and just to see the things that they got in there and what they're working on, it's so cool. And like I said, because they're such a global brand, they're constantly striving to one up the Nikes and those type of brands in the world, and because of that, it allows them to put some really innovative technology into their hunting apparel.
Yep.
And I think we all benefit from it.
Yeah, I've always liked Under Armour as hunting apparel because of the wicking nature of a lot of the products that they have, the scent control stuff that they have, the base layer stuff that does a nice job keeping you warm and wicking away the moisture and also eliminating scent, combined with those skin tight shirts that you get that are all camouflage too. It makes you look better in pictures because it sucks in your gut.
I don't know. It's hard to make us look better in pictures. It's funny because when we signed up with them, they call obviously they call everybody athletes when they sign you. You're an athlete.
Oh, is that right? Interesting.
And it's funny because we definitely don't consider ourselves to be athletes. We're just some regular Joe Blows that, love to hunt. And so
right.
they're always calling you an athlete. It's just funny because we don't look like it when we get into that
right.
bass player sometimes.
What was it that John Kruk said from the Phillies way back? I think he said something like, we're not athletes, we're baseball players.
That's well said.
Yep. Let's talk a little bit about the technology going on that you're kind of behind over at DruryOutdoors.com and the other stuff. What is this downloadable on-demand video all about?
Yeah, it's something pretty cool. We just launched a brand new website that I've been working on with some partners here the last couple months. And with that, on the new website, DruryOutdoors.com, there is something we're calling Drury On Demand, our DOD. And the cool part about it is all of our DVDs, so since the early 2000s we started coming out with DVDs, all of our DVDs you can actually download to your smartphone or your tablet, like your iPad, and or your computer. So you can go on, and it's got all the full menu features, structure. It has chapters, bonus features, everything. The DVD, if you were to buy in a store or from our website, it has all that content, but it downloads digitally to your smartphone or tablet or computer, and the quality is just unbelievable, and the features on it. I've been really, really pleased with how it's turned out, and we're partnered with a company called ROX, and they're the ones that have the technology that we're using and utilizing to bring this to our viewers.
Do you think this is going to replace the DVD someday?
My thought on it, DVDs, and it's funny because the hunting industry, we've always been a couple years, I think, behind the trend. It's just the way it's always been for the hunting industry when it switched from VHS to DVDs. There were several years where we still had to make both for every title because some people just didn't want to make the switch to DVD yet. I think absolutely. I think you'd be crazy to not think that it's going to be all digital here in a few years. The big thing is getting in front of a trend, and it's not that we're necessarily in front of it. I think we're right on cue with it. But in our industry, I don't know that there's anyone out there doing what we're doing right now. And my big goal is just to set us up for the future and to be able to continue and get content to our end user and end viewer. And television's the big thing. Obviously, right now, DVDs, have taken a backseat to television in the last 5 years. And but you never know. Television, you just don't know what the next wave might be. And I think to be smart, to have your content in a digital platform on your own website so you control it, I think that's the way you want to go.
Gotcha.
As a content provider.
Why do you think there's been a downtrend in outdoor TV?
TV, I think that the evolution of things, part of the issue is oversaturation. And there's an oversaturation with the amount of networks. There's an oversaturation with the amount of shows. And when you get to that point, what happens is there's a delusion in the quality of programming. We always strive to and I don't want to come off or sound as better than anybody. This is just what we always internally strive for, is the very best, most ethical, most entertaining, informative programming we can put out there. And I think when you turn on the TV, a lot of times, unfortunately, you see some stuff that, me personally, I don't always agree with. It might be a shot angle. It might be the way that, somebody reacts after they kill a deer. And it's to each their own. There's so many personalities in this world. There's every show out there has somebody that thinks it's the best show. A viewer out there that loves it. And that's the beauty of kind of what we do. But I think also that hurts us a little bit because not all the programming is probably as quality as it could be. If you got a little camera and and a GoPro, you can produce a good hunt.
Right.
But that also makes it so that everybody thinks that they can go out and do it at a high level. And what ends up happening is, to put 13 original episodes out there, people start stretching their content, and all of a sudden you might only get one kill a show. All of a sudden you might get no kill in a show, and I think you can do that stuff occasionally, but I think more and more there's a lot of that happening. And I think that's part of the problem, is that there's a real delusion in quality.
Gotcha. Have you noticed, and maybe it's just my television provider, but that there is a lack of HD television shows on TV right now.
You know, the funny part about that is we have to shoot in HD.
Right.
That's the killer. It's such a complicated thing from the network standpoint. Just kind of some inside, TV talk. I know what the program directors at two of the three big networks go through and to try to get HD platforms. And, Dad always complains because he still doesn't get Outdoor Channel in HD. I don't remember if he's got Dish or Direct. I forget which one.
I don't have it either.
I get it in HD.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's frustrating because it doesn't look, in this day and age, people buy big TVs, 46-inch TVs, 42-inch TVs. They expect HD quality. I mean, everything's in HD. You expect it. It's something that in 2014 people everywhere should have the ability to get it if they want it. And I think it's frustrating because us as content providers, we shoot it that way. When it leaves our studio, it's in full HD. The quality is unbelievable. But, if I'm the end user and I can only watch it in SD, a lot of times I have a hard time watching. I don't know that I watch anything that's not in SD. Now, luckily, I use Uverse, and it has a lot of HD channels, sportsmen's and outdoor channels on HD. And I know that Pursuit just recently, I think they got in a bunch more, or for the first time it might have been, they started getting in some HD homes. So, I think it's tough because the TV, like Dish, Direct, those providers, Uverse, it's big money, and it costs an extreme amount of money for the network to give them that feed or that it's kind of really political, and it always boils down to money. But that's really what's going on. It's not that the content providers aren't shooting it that way. It's that the Dish, Direct TVs of the world, they're wanting to charge the outdoor channels of the world so much money that you almost can't do business that way. So it prevents them from moving forward. And then, they might sign a contract in 2008 that might be 8 years long. You don't know kind of the behind the scenes of why it is that way. But I know this, that all the networks, they're trying to get everything HD, as they should, but they work very hard every day to try to make it all in HD.
Right. I mean, I'm kind of a technology holdout guy. I went from rollerball BlackBerry to iPhone, and there was a bunch of other versions in between, that I didn't get. HD is the same way. I held out on HD forever and finally just got it this last year. But then I realized how much of a difference it makes in the viewing quality.
And your experience.
In my experience. And I've got, 999 channels to pick from. Half of them are in HD, but the two that I really want to watch, the outdoor stuff, are not. And it drives me insane.
That's frustrating. That's very frustrating. And part of that, I always tell Dad this. It's like, hey, you need to switch your provider, man. And sometimes people don't have that option. You can't in your area switch to a provider that has it in HD, and it's just you literally cannot get it in your area in HD. And there's nothing more frustrating.
Right.
I mean, it's their works of art when they leave the studio. I promise you. And then to watch it on an SD channel or feed, oh my! For us, it's just almost makes you sick. It's like, all that hard work.
It's got to be frustrating.
Like.
Yeah, because
it is.
You guys are out there, you're shooting in HD, you're trying to make the highest quality video for your DVDs and that kind of stuff. But then the mainstream, and that kind of got you to where you are today in the first place, has not caught up to that.
Yeah.
And it's, I don't know if it's my provider, but I don't think either of the providers I've had, and I've switched providers from satellite to cable, but neither one of them did it. And
that's frustrating.
It's very frustrating.
Well, you know what? I need to send you some of our DVDs so you can see it how it's supposed to look. And that's really not even true HD, a DVD, unless it's a Blu-ray.
Right.
But it's a big difference between watching a DVD than a SD signal coming off a direct TV.
Well, I certainly hope that catches up. So you guys got some DVDs coming out, 2014 new releases pretty soon.
Yeah, they actually just came out late last week.
Gotcha. Awesome. What should a couple of things we should expect to see on those?
Yeah, so the big thing for us, in our DVDs, TV's a platform. It's great. You hit more eyeballs with it, but you have to kind of shorten all your hunts. You got, there's certain amount of sponsorship stuff you got to do, and it just is what it is. But with our DVDs, it really allows us to tell a longer story kind of the way it's meant to be told. It allows us to, there's no commercial breaks. It's 2.5 hours. Each DVD is 2.5 hours of just nonstop hunting and information. And, usually I think on Dream Season 17 and Whitetail Madness 17, there's 14 kills on each DVD. I think on Whitetail Madness 17, there's 4 gross boons. On Dream Season 17, there's 3 gross boons. 100% Wild Volume 14, I think there's 17 hunts on it. There's a special sneak peek preview at our new show coming out on Outdoor Channel called 13. Just a lot of stuff that we really can't do, on our TV shows that we really get to dive into and do on the DVDs, and it makes it for a really, really good viewing experience, especially once you start getting, in the summer months here, and there's a void of what you can hunt, and you want to get that fix. Those videos really help give you the fix you need.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, you got to have the videos in the off season. It's funny, you almost end up watching more in the off season than you do during the season.
Sure.
So tell me more about this 13 underwritten by Under Armour.
Yeah,
what's that all about?
So part of our partnership with them, it was kind of a hybrid deal. So Mossy Oak and Under Armour are partners, obviously, and Mossy Oak gave them an exclusivity on this brand new kind of reworked tree stand pattern, Mossy Oak tree stand pattern. So on apparel, if you want this new tree stand pattern, you can only get it at Under Armour. And so part of that, they needed a really good marketing vehicle to get that message out there. And Mossy Oak, has long been one of our best partners, 25 years strong. And, they kind of everybody came to us and said, hey, this is something that we'd really like you to at least look at our products, see what you think. Hey, if the quality's not what you want or need, we understand. We had a meeting out there. We toured the facility. We hunted a little bit with the clothes and really liked what we saw. So the next thing was, okay, hey, let's devise a plan on how we can get this word out there. And it allowed us to make a new TV show, which we've been wanting to do for a while, Wildlife Obsession, which is a show that we ran for 11 years. It was actually our first ever show on TV. It's going away, and 13 is going to take its place on the Tuesday Night Pursuit lineup on Outdoor Channel, starting in July 1st.
July 1st, okay.
The show itself, what we really wanted to do, believe it or not, we've never had a show where it was really just about Mark and Terry and their full season. We usually have a cast of Drury Outdoors team members that make up all our TV shows, and it's something that our sponsors and we've got a lot of viewers that have always asked us to do a show where it's just kind of Mark and Terry season. And so this new partnership gave us the opportunity to kind of think outside the box, rework some of the stuff we're doing, figure out how we can make this work out. And so Mark and Terry, myself, Taylor, Mark's daughter, and then a couple good buddies, Jim Tomey and Gary LeBox, who we hunt with quite a bit, we decided that would be the cast of this new TV show going forward. And the reason why it's called 13 is pretty interesting. And we sat down, as we try to kind of in the war room try to figure out what this new show's about. How can it be different? How can we change television? Which that might be a lofty goal, and I don't know how that sounds from your end, but we wanted to do something completely different. There's a lot of the same out there. So
yeah, no, that sounds great to me, Matt.
Yeah. So Mark and Terry, we sit down. I got my laptop there, and we're kind of trotting out, throwing out ideas. Everything you throw out, everything, see what sticks. No idea is a bad idea, kind of thing. And we start coming up with ideas and trying to figure out how we can accomplish 13 episodes, because that's what we produce, 13 original episodes, half-hour episodes.
Lucky number 13. There you go.
Well, it started there. And then you're like, okay, we sit there, and Mark's like, okay, let's do this. Let's break down the season into the periods where we think we can kill a deer. They hunt from September to January, but when are they usually the luckiest, and how can they get on a deer? 25 years of history. Between those two and our Drury team, we have a lot of a lot of stats to analyze there. So we start going through the numbers, start looking at stuff, and Mark and Dad sat there. It was the coolest thing as a guy that doesn't know nearly enough about hunting and trying to learn everything. Sitting there typing this stuff down to listen to them spit this stuff out was pretty amazing. So they decide, okay, if Missouri season starts at September 15th, when does the movement happen? How can you kill a deer during that first period of the season? So they identified the date structure. Okay, so really from September 15th through September 24th, the deer are doing this. They're hitting these food plots. They're hitting green. It's still warm. This is how you kill a deer in that period. And we start going through the entire season. And by the end of January, Mark, and I'm typing this as we're going, and we're coming up with names for those phases based on what the deer are doing. And Mark says, okay, so how many phases do we have there? Light switch events where deer, will do a certain thing that you can capitalize off of and kill them. And I count through them. I said, there's 13, believe it or not. There's 13 phases here that you guys have identified. And granted, this is very Midwestern, kind of Missouri, Kansas, Iowa, Illinois,
right,
is where we've hunted the most, so that's where their knowledge is based off of the most. But there were 13 phases, and we kind of identified 4 tactics for each phase. There's more. This isn't the Bible by any means. This isn't the law on how you kill deer. This is just their observation over, all those years sitting in a tree stand of what they felt like the deer are doing. So we came up with 4 tactics that we unveil for each episode for that phase that kind of states how we can harvest a deer during that period, how we can kill a deer during that period. And the cool part about it, kind of the twist from a production level, everybody always talks about Mother Nature. Well, Mother Nature didn't, she didn't give us any rain, so my food plot died. Or, it was really hot during the rut. Mother Nature killed me. She's not a godly figure. We're not saying that, but it's something that people always talk about, And we thought it would be interesting in a way to kind of weave a Mother Nature role into the season. So if the wind switches on you, you kind of chalk that one up to Mother Nature. If a rain front comes in and kills your hunt, you kind of chalk it up to Mother Nature. Stuff that you really do, and every hunter out there does and says, nobody's really identified that or given her a voice. So from a production standpoint...
Good point. It's a very good point.
We found a voiceover person that we kind of identified as what you think of in your head when you're thinking of Mother Nature, and we've kind of written her from the voiceover, kind of the narrator through the show, and it's not a lot. It doesn't get cheesy. It doesn't get like, oh my God, these guys took it too far.
Right. I could see how that could get out of control if you didn't do it right. Yeah.
Absolutely. So it's real tasteful. It's just kind of, she sets up the episode a little bit, and she kind of comes in, in and out of the commercial breaks. But other than that, it's not, it's not a heavy thing. But it's something new that nobody's ever done, and we're not trying to get cute or fancy. I mean, I think it's something that people always identify with as Mother Nature killed their hunt, or Mother Nature gave us a cold front, and so we were able to harvest this deer. So
who I can relate that to, or that voiceover as you just described it? I would relate it to remember the voice that came in and out of the Dukes of Hazzard back in the day?
Yeah.
Like that. Yeah. Not too much, just a little bit to set the stage. This is what set the tone. Exactly.
You're exactly right. So, that's an interesting new element that we're going to put into the show, and we are putting into the show, and something different. But at the end of the day, the show, it's not about, these parlor tricks and cute things. It's about the information and the tactics that Mark and Terry, kind of have divulged, and how they help us, the rest of the cast, themselves. We don't always kill a deer in every, somebody on our team has killed a deer in every phase, but it's not always somebody from the cast. And it's just, I think it's an interesting way to break down the season. Everybody always thinks of a season as start to finish, but in all reality, there's so many different parts of a deer season, and what the deer are doing, it's amazing. So it's a new way to kind of look at it and break it down, and as Mark and Terry always do, analyze it even further.
Right, and that's important, and that's kind of one of the things we like to get here on the Big Buck Podcast is some of that information so that we can use it in our own hunts, in our own world, wherever we're at.
Sure, absolutely.
Right,
it's always about learning.
Absolutely, constantly learning.
Make less mistakes. I don't know that they think that they know everything. I think that they know how to avoid a lot of the mistakes that they used to make. You know?
Right. It's not so much that you're trying to be the success, but you're trying to avoid the mistake.
Yeah, failure.
The failure, exactly. All right, so you've got 13 coming out July 1st, and then you've got the 2 shows, Bow Madness and Dream Season, coming out about that same time.
Those are kind of some of our staples. Dream Season is in its 11th year this year. It was one of the first reality programming in outdoor history, and there's a lot of really good kills. I think they killed Jeff Lindsay, Team Ozonics this year killed a 184, I think, on or 181, something like that.
Wow, that's
on
a
the
big
show.
deer.
So there's a lot of good stuff, a lot of good competition there, and it's not competition like who can kill the biggest buck. It's competition as in like these guys are out there, they're hunting as ethically as they possibly can. And, when they get a deer, all the other teams are genuinely happy for them. But some of that competition that guys have at their deer camps, everybody has it. There's a little internal competition at everybody's deer camp to kind of get the biggest buck or whatever.
Of course, yeah.
It's just natural. Well, that's kind of what Dream Season's about, some of that camaraderie and competition. And so the show is going to be really good again this year. And then Bow Madness is our all-archery show. It's in its 7th season. We produce it for PSE Archery. And, we got more big game hunting this year than I think we've ever had. We got Jeff and Chris Probst, who've been on our team a long time, they went Alaska hunting for moose. We have teams in New Zealand. We got guys all around the North America. But I think the other cool part is we still bring it home, Midwest whitetails, just like we always have. And it's all archery, some really good kills, and try to give you a little bit of information with a section from Pete Shepley called Pete's Tips. Excuse me. So
nice.
It's it's a cool show, and for that archery enthusiast, that may not like the gun hunts necessarily, and those guys, the hardcore guys, are out there like that. This is a show for them.
Gotcha. Matt, being a media guy, how important is social media for those guys and gals that are trying to open up their own outdoor group of hunters to maybe go to where Drury is now, somewhere in the future?
No, it's huge. In this day and age, that's how they get their information. It's interesting because when, Facebook, MySpace was kind of the first thing, and then Facebook was the biggest thing at the time. But when those first started coming out, I actually saw our numbers from our website start going down. And, at the time, you weren't really giving it much time of day because it was like, it's just another fad. And, a few years back, probably 4 years back, we started taking it more and more seriously. And, really recognized, as everybody did, that this is the wave of the future. This is how everybody's getting their content. And so to do that, you need to have a good presence on social media. We have a great presence on Facebook. We have 405,000 Facebook fans.
That's awesome.
It's great, but guess what? Facebook's changing their algorithm. The reason you see stuff in your news feed, there's all code that's involved there, and they're changing it, and they're not allowing our fans, our 405,000 fans, can't even see our own posts. I think 1% of that number actually sees our post in their news feeds, and they're doing it on purpose. They obviously are wanting us to pay to advertise.
Mm-hmm.
All companies, all people. That's how they want. That's how they get their money, is through advertising.
When they went public, now they've got to answer to the
you're exactly
stockholders.
Right.
Exactly.
You're exactly right. So okay, how do you get around that? Well, first of all, our fans hopefully are smart enough to go and say, okay, I want this content from Drury Outdoors. I want to see their posts. So you got to go over to our page and say that you're following. It's not enough to just like the page anymore. You got to click and say you're following the page so you get the posts. Well, another way that we're identifying, as in most other people, is Twitter and Instagram. Right now, you can still reach all your people through those avenues. Mm. So, we're kind of late to the game on Instagram. I think we got like 5,000 followers there. But Twitter, we have 33,000 and counting, and trying to do more and more stuff. So, for us, personally, it's a way to get our content out there, get our message out there, and share with our fans, what we're doing when we got the new releases coming out or the new shows coming out, or, our opinion is you always want to have a good message. You always still want to be ethical in what you're presenting out there, because there's a lot of anti-hunters, as we all know, and you got to watch what you're saying. You got to be proud of what you're doing, but there is a line that you can step over, and you don't want to do that because it fuels a fire. that you don't want to fuel. So you kind of got to watch, what you're throwing out there, and you want to be respectful for our heritage and what we've done. And I say we as hunters have done over the, many decades that this small industry has been around, but in general, the hundreds of thousands of years that people have hunted. You want to continue to fly the flag high.
Yeah. What about YouTube?
YouTube, we've always had a presence there. I think we have like 1.5 million views on it. YouTube's a strange thing for us because as a content provider, we don't have products that we sell. So like Moss Yoke, their product is they license camo to companies. Well, our product is that we sell our content to the outdoor channels of the world, or, sponsorships drive that content. So to just give it away for free on YouTube, it's kind of a double-edged sword.
Right.
There's tons of people obviously use YouTube to get their content out there. And I think as a startup, it's great. But when you get to a point that we're at, you don't want to just give everything away for free because that's the way that you also make your living. You know what I mean? So it's kind of a fine line we got to watch. We put a lot of stuff up, like through the season. We have a journal on our website, and we have videos on the journal. We call them the heroes. When the guys tagged and harvested the animal and tagged him, and he does a quick interview, we put that up on our website. Well, we put all those, a lot of those up on YouTube. We put a lot of, like, the Pete's Tips, and we had a biologic section that we did in Wildlife Obsession. A lot of the information, little kind of 2-3 minute clips, snippets. We put a lot of that stuff on our YouTube page. But when it comes to like full out hunts, we try to keep that on our DVDs, on our TV shows, and it's just the kind of the model that we've identified as one that works for us.
Gotcha. Speaking of all the social media outlets, how can our listeners find you? Website, phone numbers, emails, social media. What are all those addresses?
I think the easiest thing and the easiest way to get to us is by going to www.druryoutdoors, all one word, .com. And from there, you can reach our Facebook or Twitter or Instagram or YouTube. You can send an email I actually am the one that reads all the emails that come in off the website. So basically viewer feedback. All that can happen through our website. So start there and you can get all of them. We got a Facebook page, a Twitter page, a Instagram page, a YouTube page, the whole shebang.
So start out at druryoutdoors.com.
Yes, sir, and you can get anywhere you need to get.
So, the Drury is a easy word to spell once you know it, but it might spell differently than it sounds. Tell me how you spell Drury.
Drury.
Very simple.
Outdoors.
Excellent. Matt, this has been a pleasure. Thank you for joining us on the Big Buck Podcast, and hopefully we'll have you back again soon, and who knows, maybe Mark and Terry will join us down the road.
Yeah, I'd love to get that set up. They would love to join, and I appreciate all the time today, and it's been fun. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, Matt.
Yep.
Well, thanks again to Matt Drury for sharing his insights behind the scenes at Drury Outdoors. And Matt, we just couldn't thank you enough. It was a pleasure and an honor to have you on the show. And we certainly wish you the best in your endeavors coming up. And definitely tune in to all the new stuff that's over at DruryOutdoors.com. If you'd like to reach us at the Big Buck Registry, you can visit us at BigBuckRegistry.com. You can visit us on Facebook, which is BigBuckRegistry.com/Facebook. You can visit our store, BigBuckRegistry.com/store. And if you'd like to submit a buck, go to BigBuckRegistry.com/mybuck. And don't forget about the Horny Buck Seed giveaway that ends June 30th. That's www.BigBuckRegistry.com/Horny Buck Seed. Find us on iTunes at BigBuckRegistry.com/iTunes and on Stitcher, BigBuckRegistry.com/Stitcher. That's STITCHER. So this is Jay Scott from the Big Buck Registry. We'll see you next week. Can't wait.